Hello and welcome to another edition of the Great Britons and Voice of London show with me, Ian Pelham-Turner.
And me, Helena Shard.
Well, we have got a packed show for you today and some great problems for number 10 Downing Street and number 11 as well. So let's roll the cameras and let's get the show started.
So I think we're going to begin with royally rich bites, and I've got quite a few little stories to share. Her Majesty the Queen has recently shared with us that she's actually struggling with COVID and is feeling quite exhausted. I can well imagine that she is, because she's actually 96 on the 21st of April as well. So, I mean, she's absolutely fabulous how she keeps going. She's really enjoying her online talks with people, which is the way forward for her. And the routine suits her greatly. And she actually was speaking to frontline workers and people that have suffered with COVID, and was talking about the Dunkirk spirit and how everyone pulled together and the positivity in that. So it's always lovely to hear all her stories, but also knowing that everyone's revving up for the Platinum Jubilee. The royals are out in force. Princess Anne has had a flying visit to Australia and has learned about all the wonderful people that are doing fabulous things. She's actually on her way to Papua New Guinea at the moment. And I think learning about people and how all the good they're doing in their communities is really inspiring. And there's lots of different royal events that are happening to celebrate.
So it's an incredible time, isn't it, at the moment? We're looking forward to doing a special event ourselves as well. But 70 years on the throne, it's the same age as me. So, and can I say that the Queen has really stolen my thunder, because it's my birthday on the 26th. As always, I take second fiddle to the Queen, in April for the birthday. But it is. I think it's going to be a very special occasion again this year.
It's going to be fantastic.
And there's lots of events. And I think she was saying as well, or it's been said, that she's going to try and go to a few of the events, but she can't go to all of them.
She's not going to be able to.
And she's not going to sit in the Mall in a party. I can imagine the Queen doing that anyway.
Absolutely.
Sat with about 10,000 people having lunch.
But she does so well online now, doesn't she? So
yeah.
She'll be there and she'll be giving the announcements, and all will be fabulous. I know.
So it's going to be great fun, and lots of visitors are expected to come to London. I know one of the hotels that we were talking to recently, they're expecting £150,000 worth of business just in that month alone. So it's obviously caught people's attentions again.
Fabulous. That's so good. I think we're going to go a little bit glitzy. Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz have had the most fabulous wedding. Absolutely amazing. Palm Beach, glitz and glamour. Went on for 3 days. David Beckham gave a fabulous speech as well and cried about his beautiful son. Wonderful Versace dress she was wearing. So it was lovely. But they didn't forget about the charitable basis. They're working with a charity called Calm and have raised a huge amount of money for aid in Ukraine. So that's lovely. And that's one of the things that we like to talk about, which is making a difference. And there are so many fantastically inspiring people that we always like to share what they're doing. And it's great, isn't it? One of the funniest things as well I've heard is a vodka Zelensky, obviously launched in honor of the great man himself. And that's obviously to bring in aid for war-torn Ukraine. And it was actually introduced by an inspirational entrepreneur, Dr. Tobias Reichmuth, with a fashion designer, Anastasia Rossanina. and she's recently fled Ukraine in March. But it's just really good fun, and obviously it's a bottle with the blue and yellow, as you can see, with Zelensky's face on it. Again, it's just, isn't it entrepreneurial? And it's all the proceeds are going to help.
I think at the moment, obviously, we talk a lot about Ukraine and ALB UK TV, especially with ourselves. This show is really designed to talk about communities, to talk up charities, to talk up very good causes at the same time. And I think it's very important at the moment that all of that should be talked about on a regular basis as well, because we feel for Ukraine, obviously. And I think the reality at the moment is that any support that we can offer right now is very important. There's been talk today that perhaps chemical weapons have been used. This is just allegations at the moment. And the reality is that if this is the case, that one of our defence spokesmen has said that this could be a changing game again, and that all different options are now on the table if this has happened. So that's really a reference to how NATO can actually deal with a situation like that inside Ukraine, and who knows where else at the same time. But certainly from what's been happening at the moment, it is war crimes that have been happening right now. There's been lots of attacks, lots of different, Europol at the moment, they reckon has got 10,000 dead now within the city itself. So it just beggars belief, I think, that type of thing is happening.
It does. It's just unimaginable, isn't it? You just can't. And that's why it's just so important. People want to do things. You don't want to feel helpless. And the way to move forward is to think of something and just work towards giving and helping. Ukraine needs so much help at the moment. Another fabulous guy, Ant Middleton, he actually was in the forces for 14 years, a sniper. He was very high up in what he did. He's now not in that, but obviously wants to give back. And he's got a new fundraiser at the moment where, and this is the same thing like with David Beckham. So anyone that's got huge followings, it's such a worthwhile thing to put fundraisers on, because so many millions are raised. I mean, he's just going for 5 million at the moment, but bet your bottom dollar he'll get a lot more. He's a fantastic guy in general. He's all about growth and mindset and NLP, neuralistic programming, and he really gives, I think what he talks about is turning setbacks into opportunities. And I think it's so important these days for everyone, especially young people, to have that influence. He's got a book that's coming out called Mission Total Resilience, which is for children. And I feel at the moment, I know lots of parents with their younger children who really, they don't have the upbringing we had, let's just say. So it's so important. I mean, that's probably for another conversation, but he's a fabulous guy. And I know that this book is going to do incredibly well.
Absolutely right. And I think there might be two individuals that might need some fundraising shortly. Johnson and Sunak, our beloved Prime Minister and Chancellor of the Exchequer, have both been fined for their parts in Partygate by the Metropolitan Police. So this is breaking news at the moment. So what does this mean to the individuals themselves? Well, according to many of the ministers, that before Ukraine started, the thought process was that if Prime Minister Johnson gets fined, he should resign. That would have been the normal case of action. Rishi Sunak has been in all sorts of trouble in the past few days, and I can imagine from my days in Downing Street, they must be in bunker mentality this afternoon, not from the Russians, not from Ukrainian people, but from wondering what's going to happen next. And I think the reality at the moment is that over the next few days, we may see some very uncomfortable times in Downing Street, that's for certain. What am I going to say about those two? I do not know. The two of them right now are supposed to be the most senior politicians in Britain. And what have they done at this precise moment? They were partying when everybody else was in lockdown. Now, finally, before we go to the second half of our show, we're going to show a video now to actually support ActionAid. As you know, on this channel and on this show in particular, we want to support charities all the time as well. And then afterwards, we're going to have a wonderful female entrepreneur in the second part of the show, who is Nazma Sylvia Nielsen. So let's just show the video, and then we will go to our break, and then we will come back again.
Hello, I'm Miriam Margulies, and I've been an ActionAid supporter for 31 years. In 2010, I travelled to the West Bank in the occupied Palestinian territory with ActionAid, and there I met a mother, Islam, and her young children who were struggling to survive. They were without basic services like schools, doctors, or decent sanitation. I was shocked to see just how little they had. Nobody should have to live like this. Half the population in Gaza and the West Bank are children. Years of conflict have left many of them traumatized and living in poverty. Schools have been destroyed, taking with them a safe place where children could have learned and played. But there is hope. Through ActionAid, it's now possible to sponsor a child in the West Bank and Gaza. Your sponsorship would give a child enough food to eat, an education, and the support they need to recover from trauma. I've had the joy of sponsoring several children. A tiny offering from me, just 65p a day, has made an enormous impact on their life and mine. You could give them a chance to thrive and fulfill their potential. If you'd like to help, click the Learn More button to find out how your sponsorship can change a child's life for good. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the second part of the show of the Great Britain and Voice of London show on ALB UK television. So we have the wonderful Nazma Sylvia Nielsen with us this afternoon. Good afternoon to you. You look resplendent this afternoon. And we were just looking against the background as well. So the blue suits the blue very well. So it's fabulous, fabulous.
Thank you.
And I know before we first start with your background, because you've got the most incredible story. I know we've just shown the ActionAid video as well, supporting children, and I know that that's really much in your heart as well. As one of the things that you like to do is to work and support children at the same time.
Yes, I think supporting children is really the future of our world, because when they understand the world and how it's running, only then can the world be a better place. My interest and core desire is to actually help knowledge, especially Africa actually, and places like, well, I worked already with the Peace Parks Foundation, where they're supporting the children to learn how to actually cohabit with animals. And I thought that was a really amazing story. One of the stories that I heard about that was, did you know that elephants are actually scared in an area where you have bees? So these children in a village where they're supporting the animals not to go in the villages, they actually start producing honey, and this honey is sold for money. That gives them, you know, sort of funds to manage their lives and go to school, and also help with the tourism. But at the same time, the elephants don't come close to their villages, because the elephants don't like the sound of bees. So it's small things like that, including micro farming, but really it's more to give tools to people to change their lives, which I think are very interesting to learn about. And know.
Definitely. And I know, because obviously we've just seen ActionAid, and that's been going for over 50 years. And the good thing about their thought process behind it is to ensure that a child's whole community benefits, not just the child. So just the small things, like if you give, seeds to someone to
That's
then
right.
grow their food, and so it's helping in that way. So
Yes.
well, that's a really interesting story.
It is,
Todd. I
isn't
didn't
it?
know about
Yes,
that.
I didn't either until when I was told the story, and I thought it's an amazing story to tell and know about, because there are many small things that many people know how to cohabit or live together with the wild and the villages and things like that actually do help.
I guess it's really character building as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's lovely.
But it's so strange that elephants don't like honey.
No, it's not the honey, it's the noise of the bees.
Oh, it's the noise of the bees.
That's right.
I get it. I see
Yes.
it's the noise of the bees. I was just going to say for a minute, I was thinking, anyway, so there you go. But so it's the noise of the bees that they don't like.
Yeah, so there
they
you
don't
go.
like
You
this.
learn every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have such an interesting story.
Yes.
So you really have built up a portfolio of different interests as an entrepreneur. But how did you start off? So you came to Britain and you've got this amazing story where I think you started as a secretary. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, well, in Africa, as you know, especially in Malawi, my parents were very strict. So I was not allowed to actually leave the country unless I had a purpose. My father was very interested in education, more so than my mum, because my mother thought, there you are, you're grown up, now you can get married and leave if you're not interested in studies. And I was a bad student, so I decided to sort of skip school and play with my toys and friends and be in the river and go swimming and stuff like that. So it was very interesting when my father then said to me, listen, it's either you're grown enough and you want to get to have your own family, or you study, so I can tell your mother to keep quiet so you can study and continue with your education. So I continued with my education by doing secretarial work, studies, which I did computers and typing and secretarial courses. After that, I started working for Royal Insurance, and then I said to my father that I was posted to come to UK to a meeting. There was a genuine meeting there, but I was really not one of the members invited to come. But I thought it was a good opportunity for me to try and come to Europe. That's only the time that my father said it was okay to actually leave the country, because I was coming for work and education, so that was fine. And then I came to England for a holiday initially, and then I was walking on Baker Street and looking at properties there, or a place to stay, and one of the gentlemen in the office said to me, oh, by the way, you can come in the office and we have some more, houses that you can look at. So when I went in their houses, in the office, the gentleman then said to me, no, he had customers that wanted work done. They were completing on a purchase that day. And they said, oh, my secretary's not here, so we can't do anything. He says, no, we have to get this done within 10 minutes. And I said, oh, by the way, I can help you. So I started, I got the paperwork done for them, and he was very grateful. That earned me my accommodation, because one of the secretaries had an extra accommodation. And then I realized that it was very interesting work, because this property company were actually buying and renting and selling properties, and you could make money from that. Having also come from my father, who was into the building field anyway, that was very interesting. So I decided to sort of think, okay, I can find out how this is done, and then I can do the same.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that was so opportune, wasn't it?
It was.
Because that was quite quick. It was like it was all aligned, wasn't it? It was meant to
indeed.
be.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Amazing.
So I started working for them, and of course, as a young, I must have been 17, 16, 17, 18, and those days I'm thinking, my goodness, I get something like £5 an hour, and this job is going to give me like £15 an hour. Those days, and why not? I could just work a few more months and see where I go. And then I got my first paycheck, and I'm thinking, it's very easy to get loans, because obviously I found out how they do the loans then, and it was a good idea for me to get my first place. So I took a mortgage, and then I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to manage to live as well as pay my mortgage? And then I decided, okay, the best thing to do is I could live in the living room, and the tenant could pay for my rent. So that's where I started my business, and that just snowballed from one place to another place to another place, and made my first living very comfortable, and did some of the work myself, tiling and stuff like that.
You're a smart cookie, aren't you? You definitely are.
Well,
that's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Who would you say was your influence?
I would say my father was, and also all the people that you learn when you come across them in life, and that giving up is not good enough. And that's when my second snowball came up, where I whisked myself in Sweden and lived there for a while. I met sort of someone then and lived there for 5 years. I think it was 5 or 6 years. And then I decided I could do something with Africa, because my parents are there. I needed to go on holiday anyway. And then I went and approached a company, which was, I don't remember the name now, but I know that they were selling all their computers, because somebody told me about it. So I went and discussed with them that I was quite keen to buy the computers. And they said, no, of course not. You cannot buy this because you're only a small person, and you're not allowed because we only sell to big companies. And I remember going to the office several times and begging him and saying, if you don't allow a small person to be big, how does one become a big person? Because I would like to be that big person. And then he said, well, firstly, you have to have someone who can erase all the computers, because we got a lot of important data. And secondly, I don't think you have the resources to do that. And I said, well, what if I tell you that I'm going to take these computers far away from anyone that would be able to see or work with them, and then I'm going to promise you that I'm going to get them all deleted, whatever you want to have inside, and then I'm going to give quarter of the proceeds of the computers and quarter of the computers themselves to a good cause for people who really need them, and this is going to have your name on it and say that you are the one who've changed someone's life. And he looked at me and said, what have you got? And I said, well, I've got 5,000. And he says, oh, come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day and I said, well, what is the goal? He says, do you know how many computers we have? And I said, well, I don't know, but I'm sure, it will be still very interesting. And he says, okay, write a check. I wrote the check. I hadn't seen the computers then, but nor did I know that these computers was actually a full warehouse of computers. And I looked at these computers and I thought, oh my God, what have I done now? How am I going to deal with this thing? It was really funny because it was frightening, and I really did not know where I could keep that kind of computers, or let alone take them to my house, because I wouldn't have had the space to put them in. And again, as a line of luck chose to come that day, as I was walking out of the gate, 2 young black boys were walking past and then talking about transportation to Africa. And then I said, excuse me, did you say you're doing transport to Africa? I said, yeah. I said, here are the keys. Do you mind transporting all my stuff to Africa? So, and then, it was really a gamble because I didn't know these people. But I trusted. Something in my heart told me to follow my heart and trust whatever was in my way. And honestly, if honesty has to be told, I would not have managed to do anything with that on my own unless I had a rescue, because I couldn't think of any other plan. So these two boys, managed to put everything in a container for me. And it was a 40-foot container full of computers. There must have been 5,000 or 6,000 computers in there. It was really a big number. And 6 weeks later, I go to Malawi and started flogging the computers. So I then get to speak to IBM, and I think there were 480 computers, I think, those days. I think there were a special model. And IBM comes and talks to me about the computers, or I go first to talk to them and said, I want to sell computers to them. And they said, are you joking? I said, no. I said, I've got computers. He says, yes, but we sell computers. I said, yes, but you sell them very expensive. These are very cheap computers. He says, and you do sell second-hand computers. And he said, yes, but if we are already an IBM company and you are selling computers which are IBM companies, why do you think that you could sell things that we already sell? I said, because I got them very cheap and I can flog them for cheaper than you can sell them. So I know that I can flood the market. And I said to him, why don't you purchase half of the computers, and then I won't do that. I'll sell at the price that you want to sell them. He said, okay, no, we wouldn't do that. And I said, okay, thank you. And I left. So then I put an advert in, and clearly I was probably something like £100 less than what they were selling them for at that rate of whatever money there was at that time. And just a few minutes later, the director calls me and says, can you come back in the office? And I said, yes. He says, is that realistic? I said, yes. He says, well, we'll take 50. I think they were taking not 50, but I think it was half of the computers that I had at the time. We'll take them, and also would like to offer you a job. And I said, well, I can't really take your job, but it would be really nice that you can buy the half of the computers. And then I promised to only sell a certain price. And then a big company approached me and said, we would like to buy the rest of the computers, but you need to give us the computers first and we'll give you the money later. And I said, well, to be honest, I've now sold half, I got all my money back, and I really don't care whether you want them or not, but I would appreciate if you buy them by giving me the money first, and then I give you the computers. He says, okay, we'll pay you later. So we pack all the computers in the truck. And then he says, come to my office and pick up the check. I said, no, you can't do that. Just because I'm young, you can't take advantage of me in that way. And he said, well, you don't know who I am. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. Then he talked to my father. He says, can you tell your daughter that, who I am? He says, well, I can't, because these are her computers. So after that, he left me alone, and I closed my gate. And I said, you can't leave with my computers unless you give me the money. And then I told the boys to take out the computers and put them on the floor and put them back in the warehouse. And this guy was totally angry with me. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to sell them individually. Nor did I know that it was a very controlled market. So these guys had clearly a good follower of whatever they wanted done. And then I put an advert in the magazine to say I'm selling computers. But those days in Africa, you could actually tell anyone to do what you want. So they managed to get the advertising company to advertise themselves as well for the same computers. And then my phone calls were not reaching me at all. There was no longer a phone call because the phones were dead. So I couldn't sell those computers. And I thought, oh my God, I am really up against someone really tough. So what I'm trying to say here is that, you really sometimes have to pursue your goal and really fight for it, and not to give up, because if you do, someone will still take the better of you.
So do you think you're a risk taker? Do you think in reality good entrepreneurs like yourself, and you've got an amazing portfolio of interest now, but people like yourself, taking that extra risk is it part of your nature, or you still manage to sleep at night? So
yeah. I guess what it is that it's really following your heart or your instinct, and that to always, understand or listen to that, other than listen to people. Because many people, when I did try and tell them that I bought computers, the first thing they said to me is, "Are you crazy? No one would buy them, and they are second-hand computers after all." And I said, "Yes, but people in Africa need these computers, even though they're second-hand, and they're still working." And then I went to the bank and I said to the secretaries there, and I said, "Listen, I've got computers. I can't sell them on the internet, but is there a way we can get rid of?" "Oh my God, yes!" Everybody wanted to buy them. So there was suddenly a network of telephone calls between secretaries in different offices, and by the evening I had a sort of like a huge queue at my house, everybody buying computers. And within a couple of days, literally, the container was almost empty.
Gosh.
So again, it's finding ways or goals which are different from what we plan on, because that's not what I planned to do. If I had followed what I was going to do initially, I really wouldn't have been able to get rid of those computers. But, by trusting other people and following your heart of what you're doing is to be the right thing, you can still...
Do you think you would do that now? Do you think that's something you'd still follow, or because we're in a different world, aren't we, in a way?
Yes, we are. I still maintain that it's always good to follow what your heart tells you is the right thing. Because now I've started a business in France, in Monaco, where I started with very cheap houses in London where no one else wanted to buy. And then I would buy and sell it and do it up and sell it and then, upgrade myself a little. And then decided, a year later, 2-3 years ago, that I would try a different market, which is in the luxury end. And then, myself and my daughter, who inspired me to do that, Nisha, said to me she loved a certain area, and that's the area she would love to actually have a home in. And then suddenly I landed up with this property which was completely derelict, and everybody said to me, "It's impossible, I cannot do it, I can never fix it either, because it's very difficult to get builders there, not let alone speak the language." And probably, I think it must have been 4 or 5 months later, I managed to actually carry it through.
Was this in Monaco? Sorry.
It's actually on Monaco Heights. It's right on the border of Monaco, but you see the most amazing view of Monaco, though. Really, really a fascinating building, which was originated from there's a monument there which is called the Trophy of the Alps, and the bricks of that building actually originated from that, was built from that. And I believe the Onassis family have actually lived in there, and some royal families have also been in that building. And it's got a very beautiful water well, which is apparently supposed to be a blessed water well. So it's quite an interesting...
Amazing. That sounds absolutely stunning.
Yes, yeah. So you see, it's really about taking risks. It is kind of a risk, isn't it? Because you're going into a country or a territory that you've never done before. But what an exciting move, and moments that I've actually enjoyed every minute of actually sitting down on the floors with the builders and making them lunches and gaining their respect, because they felt, there's a woman, but she's part of us, and accepting people for who they are, and not believing that you're any better than anyone else just because they don't have something that you don't, you have.
Yeah. I think as well, it's also, you know, it's proving people wrong, because people said, oh, you can't and you
Yes.
can't and you've got to do it up and there are no builders, all these different things. And there you are with
Yes.
this most splendid place.
Yes,
And you've
and it does
achieved
look-
that.
yes, yes.
It's a lesson there to be learned for everyone to...
It is.
to-
And it's right next door to Prince Albert's home. So if it was good enough for him, then it was good enough for little Malawi girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did you think when you first learnt that it was an Assis house, that he'd sort of lived there? And he'd got quite a, when I'm looking into it at the moment, he's got quite a checkered history
Yes.
in Monaco. He had quite a few fights.
He did. The only thing that I really know of the story is that I saw a lot of, yacht magazines cuttings and photographs, which unfortunately were stolen. And at the time when I was doing up the place, we did look on the internet. There was kind of some stories of that building, but then that was taken down for, knowledge of private life, I was told. But it's still, it has a very beautiful charm. It's a little castle, but a very miniature one with just 5 bedrooms, hidden, but at the same time with amazing views, 360 degrees of Monaco, and also of the mountains and the sea, where I'm trying to now see if we could make that as a platform to actually create something magical. And I'm looking for people who can inspire that or maybe help me achieve that.
You're wanting to do events there, I think.
Ideally.
Working with event companies,
Yes.
film companies, fashion houses.
Fashion houses, yes. And also, even companies that want to, corporate companies that want to have their own events there, or families that want to just have a break, as well as, let's do something and maybe do something magical that can also help inspire other young people, or create events for charities as well, where we can actually give back to the nature and the people, which I did have one event, by the way, on the 15th of December for the Peace Parks Foundation. But, hopefully this time I can make it with a bit more experience of the mistakes.
You learn from
That-
your mistakes.
Yes,
So well
yes,
done
yes,
for
yes.
doing that. Oh, it sounds like it's got huge potential.
Yes, it
and if it's
does.
got that wonderful views as
Yes,
well,
it
that we
does.
all long for.
And
Yes.
it sounds like you're the queen of your own castle now.
Yes, exactly,
Which is
exactly.
But you also have a forest.
Yes.
So tell us about folks, this lady has got all sorts of opportunities.
No, so the forest is actually a land which is really flat land on the Monaco Heights, which is kind of nearby, close to Monaco anyway. The advantage of it is because in Monaco everything is bricked and there isn't really outside space. It's the only space that I know of that I've done a research on that you could really have nature, the mountains, fresh air, and a place where you could do different activities and events as well. And one of them, which I was thinking would be amazing, is where people could meet and discuss different genres and have a backdrop of this beautiful, amazing area to work on and just enjoy life, really, and give each other back knowledge and information where you are when you are in a very relaxed atmosphere and beautiful, drop off the mountains and views. And
I think so many people would be interested in that. Definitely.
I think certainly everybody that's been there to see it is very excited about it. And again, it's like having a beautiful dress and then you just need the people to wear it. So I'm looking for people that would love to work with me and let's do something and
Absolutely.
bring magic.
And perhaps at the end of the show today, we can actually just show some pictures of it at the end as well of what you had.
Yes.
So tell us about the forest now. So you've really got plans for that as well, because there's already some themes being thought through about what you would like to do there.
Yes. I was talking to a few people that what would really be interesting is actually take up, like I say, my heart is on giving back to nature and giving back knowledge. And I think that we learn every time, including one of my passion to really support is mental health, which is at the core of my heart, and discussions of different subjects, which can be done with friends and really support each other by allowing ourselves to be us and not to judge and or wonder that just because one is any better off than another person, that they suffer any differently, and that we could support and be open so that you really get everyone to understand what problems you have, so that you get the right support from your close friends and family.
So almost like have your own charity in a way.
That's right, yes. But I mean, is it really charity, or do we do charity every day anyway? By standing up when someone sits down on your chair because they're pregnant or they're older than you or they look like they need your seat. It's just being kind to each other in a very relaxed atmosphere, but not by judging people just because of what they have or don't have. Because money is just a vehicle of achieving what one wants, which is good. And not having money is also an aspiration to actually learn from those that have it, and to feel that there's nothing that stops anyone achieving their goals by really just following your heart and doing the right thing.
Making people aware that you're there to help them.
Yes, and giving each other the knowledge if it's sought. And I find that many people like, Ian there, is there to support or just hold your hand and teach you one thing. Or
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've got other properties as well, so you have them in, I think, France, is it? And Denmark as well?
Yes. That is something that I achieved with my husband, and where we have a beautiful place in Denmark and a lovely place in Italy. And I'm hoping now that maybe I can share with my friends and also probably make it pay for itself if I can at some point. Yeah.
And you've also, I know now, you're a great animal lover.
Oh, I love animals, yes.
And you also want to support children as well. So tell us about that.
The animals, well, that inspired me by my husband, Louis Nielsen, and he was an amazing animal lover. He loved walking and he loved sleeping in the bush, under the sun, and under the stars. And I remember when I first met him, and he said to me, I've worked very hard in my life, but the woman I want to sit next to me, I need her to be willing to travel everywhere. And I said, well, there you go, I'm here. I've come from Malawi, we can always go back to Malawi. And then our journey started because he had worked very hard himself, and he decided to really see the world, because he said that he'd worked very hard, but he never really saw the countries with, relaxation and really just enjoying the space other than going to work. So we did travel to Africa, and we went to a migration for zebras at the time, and that was an amazing experience because I was literally in front of a zebra, and I felt like I was talking to him, or it felt like we were having a really good discussion. He was almost saying, I want to be where you are, and that's where I'm going to be, and I'm thinking, no, you better go there because you've got to be in the truck. They were migrating them from one country to another. And after 2 seconds, there was a plane over the top of my head, because they were very scared that the zebra would probably jump over me, and that would be the end of me. But he had the most amazing eyes, really very handsome. And I thought, okay, what do? I ducked a little bit around the tree, and he actually followed me around the tree and then made a big leap and jumped to the direction where the plane was trying to shush them to, and then ended going back in the van to go to another country.
Okay.
So it was a very interesting experience, and that's where I learned about the farming, which were done at in a micro way, where they're teaching them to farm small amount of area but producing quite a lot of food. And then they were teaching the local villagers how they can communicate with each other to actually understand the market of the food, what it was being sold for, with the internet, or with the mobile phones, and then the knowledge of the bees to cohabit with animals, and kids learning to really support the works, because they knew that that is what's going to give them their future also, their education and their food and their living and their future. Really, without animals, us in Europe as well as in Africa have nothing much to show for. So that's been sort of very educational for me, and the feeling of wanting to do something with that in the future.
And lovely being out and about as well.
Absolutely.
And things like that. It was interesting how when you started, you said when you were younger, you were out and about having fun and under the stars, etc.
Yes,
and, in a way,
and telling stories.
It did a sort of full loop, didn't it?
Yeah, and then, listening to all the elders telling us stories at the, around the fire. And again, that's like poetry nowadays in Europe. And I was thinking, what about giving that experience back to other people? Would be quite interesting, because it's a very beautiful memory that I remember. And
so all these memories you're going to feed into your events.
Exactly.
I can see.
Exactly.
That little...
And let others enjoy them as well, and maybe take something from it. And that's another thing. I think it's very interesting to understand is, isn't it a lovely idea if people, before they part the world, can share with us these small knowledges? And the other day when you were talking to me about the Queen, for example, I thought that was a very exciting knowledge. I would like you to tell me about the the handbag of
absolutely.
the Queen, and what that means when she moves her handbag in a different direction. I thought Ian was quite fascinating on that. I would like you to tell the people about that.
I think, well, basically it's a method that the Queen uses, as Helena knows as well, because we're both royal commentators as well, that the Queen uses the handbag as a means of actually telling people, not that she would ever admit she's getting bored, but is a means of actually sort of referring to her courtiers, and she always keeps it on her left arm, and if she's getting bored with someone, or she wants to move on, she transfers the handbag from the left arm to the right arm, and that's a sign for the courtiers to actually realise that she now wants to move on, and they will gradually sort of steer her away and bring other people in at the same time. So it's an interesting world. The other thing that's partly of that is that I know as well with children, you'd like perhaps to really teach etiquette to children as well.
Yes, I was thinking that, now that I've got this platform of a place which is very unique and has a beautiful, beauty of its own, what if we also brought in knowledge of etiquette of sitting down tables, or sitting down, or courting, or what are roles of men and what are roles of women. I mean, I know that we have equality, but I also know that I thoroughly enjoy it when a man opens the door for you, or pulls a chair and makes you feel very special. And I've experienced that with my husband, who's been the most loving person. And I think those kind of behavior or knowledge should be passed down to other people. or even if they just to experience it and understand that that's the right thing to do. So yeah, it's been one of my educational ideas that has crossed my mind to actually pass on and get the right people that and the royals as well, that also fascinates me.
Absolutely.
And learn something from how they do things, and
they are amazing people.
Constructive and educational.
Yes,
it's exciting, isn't it? And,
yes.
and I agree, to be able to pass that on, especially to the younger generation, because they don't seem to have those skills really that
yes,
people
because,
did years ago.
Yes, because the parents are now very busy, so we're working longer hours than we should do, and we're not spending the same time with the kids, as parents did before. So perhaps some of the things that we took for granted that everybody should know, like eating together at the table, that's not many people have that privilege anymore.
Yeah.
And just I remember those moments being very, very unique and special. That makes you really whole. And I would like that kind of at least knowledge to be passed on. If people want to use it, that's fine. If they don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately we are running out of time this afternoon as well. So can we thank you so much?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You've
It's
got the most incredible
lovely
stories.
Yes,
absolutely.
As well. You're a great storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
You are, and
Really?
I can see these events coming to life. I really can.
No, that would be lovely.
And then you can come back as well and share them with us. You've got lots more to tell. I
You
can
have
hear.
so many stories.
Yes.
So what's going to happen in a minute, we will show some images of your property and how to contact you as well.
That would be lovely, yes.
And
also if there's somebody out there that really has an idea that I can work with them, I would love that, because I think we should have a fun moments now and really enjoy ourselves.
Absolutely, more than ever we need fun moments, and you're the lady to go to.
Exactly.
I've got some ideas too. I think we should talk.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Well, I'm here. It would be lovely to talk to you. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's another great show we've had today.
I really enjoyed
we've
that.
packed so much into it again as usual. So it's been a great show.
Thank you.
So from me, Ian Pelham-Turner.
And from me, Helena Shard.
It's been another great show for Great Britain's Voice of London show. And today with the wonderful Nesma Sylvia Nielsen as well. We'll show some images in a moment of some of her properties as well and how to contact her. But from the three of us, have a great week and we will see you again next week.
See you again.
Stay tuned. Bye for now.